Hi, this is Ellen Lindner from Adventure Quilt Works on YouTube and adventurequilter.com. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about facing. I've got a lot of information about it on my website, but there's a few details that I want to add today. I really like finishing my quilts with a facing technique, and you can see several on my design wall that are examples. Let's take a closer look. One of the things that I like about the facing technique is that it doesn't add the visible line of a binding, and I think that that's really nice, especially with smaller quilts. I also like that it's easy. I do everything by machine. I sew the sleeve on, the label, all before I attach the facing, and so it's very easy. There's no hand sewing done on any of these. One thing I haven't included on my website is what the tail end of that facing technique looks like. This quilt, Second Thoughts, has had its facing stitched on, but it hasn't had its final pressing. And so I want to show you what that looks like. It just is all kind of one big puffy envelope at this point. It needs to be pressed. This is what that same quilt looks like from behind. It's already had its label stitched on, the sleeve stitched on, the facing is attached, and it's waiting to have this slit closed up. The slit has fusible web already attached to it, so I'll use that to my advantage when it comes time to iron the slit closed. What the quilt needs now is an ironing from the front to try to get this little bit of facing that's showing rolled to the back. I'll do that ironing from the front, remembering that there's fusible in here at the middle, and so I don't want to iron in that area just yet, just over here in the edges. I've used an understitching technique. That's what this extra line of stitching is right here, and that helps me roll the facing to the back. I've just gotten started on this corner, and it rolls very nicely to the back. So here I haven't ironed yet over here in this area, but when I grab it and try to lay it down flat, it really wants to cooperate because of that understitching that I've added in there. This part of the quilt that I'm showing you right now has the facing attached, has the understitching on, but it's doing its own thing. So the facing is showing quite a bit on the front of the quilt. That's not what I want. So thanks to the understitching, I'm able to roll the facing to the back very easily once I give it a little bit of pressure with the iron and the heat. So this end down here, I have already done that. I've rolled the facing to the back and ironed it. And now I'll just continue to work my way down. Okay, I've ironed the edges from the front now, and they've settled down very nicely, and the facing has rolled to the back very easily, but I'm not quite through. Let's take a look at what it looks like from the back. From the back, it still needs some more attention. I need to iron these edges, get them smooth, and then I'm going to slowly start easing the fabric over to the slit. I'll do that from both sides, and there will be enough excess in here to just barely cover that slit. Remember, there's fusible in there, so that's going to close it for me, but I want to make sure that I don't iron in that area until I'm really ready to do so. My quilt has now been ironed around the edges, and I'm ready to close up the slit. Before I do that, I want to show you something that you may have noticed before, and that is I have quilted this quilt without a backing fabric. That's because I knew that my facing was going to cover the entire thing and serve as my backing fabric. The facing on this quilt is now completely finished. Again, the label was attached beforehand, the sleeve was attached beforehand, both by machine. It's been stitched on, understitched, ironed from the front, and then finally I ironed that slit closed. Hard to see, isn't it? There was just enough fusible in there and enough excess fabric to allow for a little bit of overlap. Now, in order to get an overlap, it means you're also going to have just a little bit of a tuck there on either end of the slit. And I don't consider that a bad thing. It's even hard to see on this end. But that is a necessary part of the process. If that bothered you, or you thought it was going to bother the quilt judges at some show, then you would probably choose a different technique. This is finished now. It just needs to be signed by me, and then I'll probably add another few lines of stitching, of quilting to go through all layers, making sure that I don't stitch through the sleeve. You can find instructions for making your own facing on my website, adventurequilter.com. Click on Learn with Ellen, then Techniques, and you'll see an article on facing, complete with many photos. I hope you have fun trying it out.